Shalom and welcome. My name is Tom Howling and welcome to our Hebrew class for this week. And today we are beginning a new chapter. It's from Yehuchanan, John chapter 4, and we will cover verses 1 to 5. So let us begin. And as I do each week, for anyone that might come for the first time, I give you the Nakud, the vowel marking chart, to help you understand how to use the vowels. Just reminding us that the patak is like a shorter A sound, the karmats is a longer one. And we have the same with the E sound, which is a zere, which is like a longer E sound. And then we have sego, which is a short E sound. And so we have also useful resources here, which will help you so much in your practice. So let us begin. And so we're, of course, in verse 1, which is represented with an aleph because it's the first letter of the alphabet. Remembering that Hebrew uses letters rather than numbers to identify numbers as well. So we also like to go through the letters. And so we go through the letters again. Vav, Yod, Hey, Yod, Kaf, Aleph, Shin, Resh, Nun, Vav, Dalet, Ayin, Lamed, Aleph, Dalet, Vav, Nun Sofit, which is Nun at the end of a word, which is a different form than the normal Nun. Kaf, Yod, Shin, Mem, Ayin, Vav. And just to look, we see we have an Ayin here, which is in white, which means we don't need to even pronounce it. And then apart from that, we have like a Vav here, but the Vav is not pronounced. It's only the vowel marks that's pronounced. And that happens here as well. And it happens here as well, only the vowel sound. So we will come to understand that as we go along. So let us begin by reading. He, and it was. Of course, the root of that is haya, to be, right? And it was ka'asher, like when. It could be like that, but in context, like when suits it better. No da, it was known. And the reason why it was known is because you got the nun there. But if we look down here, we've got no da. It's a verb to become known, to brought to one's attention. I thought it was interesting that as an adjective it can mean famous or well known. So it sort of helps us understand that. So it was known. La Adon, which is to the master, because Adon means master, right? Ki, that. Shamu, they heard. That's the pronoun. It's third person, so they heard. And so we have yada as being the root, which is a kal verb to know, to be aware, to be familiar with. So now the translation, and it came to pass when it was made known to the master that they had heard. So now it's time for us to read it, and we read Vehi, Ka'asher, No da, La'adon, Ki Shamu. So as we read it, we don't want to be too concerned with understanding it, just reading it properly. And the translation then is given as, and it was, like when it was known to the master that they heard. And so now we come to part B. So the letters are Hey, Pei, because there's a dot there, Resh, Vav, Shin, Yod, Mem Sofit. That means Mem at the end of a word. Aleph, Shin, Resh, Yod, Hey, Vav, Shin, Ayin, Hey, Ayin, Mem, Yod, Dalet, Vav, Gimel, Mem Sofit. That's a mem at the end of the word again, and there's a normal mem. And then we have Hey, Tet, Bayet, because there's a dot there, so it's not Vayet, Yod, Lamed. All right, now we can read it. it is ha-perushim. Ha-perushim. So when we have a digestion there, we normally include the short E sound, perushim, the Pharisees. Share that Yahushua, or Yahusha, He'emid, raised up. So how do we get that? If we look at it, amad is a kal verb to stand. So it comes from the root to stand. It can also mean to erect or to raise up. Even it can mean to withstand. So we can say raised up or he erected, which sounds a bit strange. So raised up suits the context. The gum, and also hit bil, he immersed. And of course it's a hifil, so it's like cause to immerse. And because there's no pronoun, we add he to it. He immersed. Was heard by the Pharisees that Yeshua had raised up as well as immersed. Right? And then I've given you also amid, which as an adjective means durable, resistant, which literally means to stand strong. And then we have hit bil, the verb to dip in a liquid or to immerse. Right, now we can read that. Ha-perushim asher Yahushua he'emid v'gam hit bil. And the reason why I say it with a longer I sound, bil, is because you got a yod with it. So it sort of lengthens the I sound. Hit bil. Right? And the translation is the Pharisees. So in other words, was heard by the Pharisees that Yahusha raised up and also he immersed. And of course we could also use there Yeshua because that's a more well-known term. But I use this because some people use that, and I also use Yahushua because many people use that term. And so we come to 4:1c. And we have a tav, lamed, mem, yod, dalet, yod, mem, safid, hey, resh, bayet, because of the dot, hey, mem, yod, hey, vav, chet, nun, and nun safit. That's a normal nun. That's the nun at the end of a word. So let's read it. Talmidim, sorry, what I'm going to talk about. Talmidim, which means disciples. Harbe, now we've got more. Now if we look at Rav, it means great, vast, numerous, more. And then we've got Rabbah, as a kal verb means to increase, to multiply. So we'll use more, disciples more. Mi Yahuchanan, meaning from Yahuchanan, Yochanan, in the modern Hebrew. So, and immersed more disciples than John. So now we can read that. Talmidim, harbe, mi Yahuchanan. And the translation, disciples more from Yehuchanan, which is generally translated more than Yehuchanan, or John. Right, and now we turn the page and we're in verse 2. And of course, this is called Vayet, because there's no dot there, so we can actually say Vayet, but it's the second letter of the alphabet, so it has a value of 2. And then we have Vayet Aleph, Vav, Aleph, Vav, Lamed, Mem, Safit. Yod, Hey, Vav, Shin, Ayin, Hey, Vav, Aleph, Lamed, Aleph, Hey, Tet, Bayet, Yod, Lamed, Kaf, Yod, Aleph, Mem, Safit. And we will read it. ve'ulam, ve'ulam, and nevertheless. So how do we get that? We have ulam, which is a conjunction, and it can mean however, but, nevertheless. So I've chosen nevertheless. And nevertheless, Yahushua or Yahusha, who he, lo not, hit bil, immersed, ki, and I've also included the beginning of the next word, because together, ki im usually translates as but. And then here they've translated, although it was not Yeshua that performed immersion, but. And then also giving you ulam as a masculine noun, which is interesting. Same spelling, same sound, exactly. But because it's a noun, it means whole, theatre, auditorium. And I've also given you olam, which is the same sound, or very similar, but it's not the same. It's a masculine noun for world, universe, creation, eternity, because it uses an I-N. So we've got to remember those things, not to be confused. So let us read. Ve'ulam, Yahushua, hu, lo, hit, bil, ki, im. And nevertheless, Yahusha, he not immersed, but. And now we come to part B, and then of course we have the Tav, Lamed, Mem, Yod, Dalet, Yod, Vav. So it is Tal, Mi, Dave. And of course the Vav at the end tells us his. The Yod also tells us it's sort of like plural, so his disciples. So Yeshua did not immerse, but his disciples. And Talmid is a singular form. It's a masculine noun meaning pupil, student, learner, follower, and of course it means disciple. And then we read it again without any aids. Tal me Dave. So as you can see, both of these are like a longer sound. Me Dave. His disciples. And now we turn to verse 3, which is a gimel, the third letter of the alphabet. And then we go through the letters. Vav Yod Zade Aleph. Mem Aleph Resh Zade Sofit. Different than that one. It looks different. Yod He Vav Dalet He. Vav Yod Lamed Kaf Sofit. That's a kaf at the end of a word. Then we have Shin Nun Yod Tav. Hey Gimel Lamed Yod Lamed Hey. So let's read it. Va Yitzei. And it means, and he, because there's no pronoun, so it's he went out. It can mean went forth. It can mean departed. Me'eretz, so it's me'eretz, right, because they're short of sound. From eretz, meaning the land, and I've added of to fit it in better. Yehuda, so it's of Yehuda, or Judea in the modern terms. Vayelek, and he went. Now it's went because we have a vav and a yod in front. And the vav changes the tense from being future to completed action. And he went. Shenit. Now I've translated it as secondly. Now often they'll translate it a second time. But because the word is like second, I thought secondly would be better. Right now, and then we've got Ha-Galila. Now, the interesting thing is that it's a noun because the hey in front, ha, but the hey at the end is a directional hey, so it means to, and then the, and then Galil, to the Galil, which is translated as Galilee, right? But it's actually Galil. So we've got down here, yatsa is a cold verb to go outside, to exit, to leave, especially a state. And then we've got halak, right? Now we've only got lek up there, but it comes from the root halak, which is a cold verb to go, to walk, to leave, to follow. And then I've given you shanit, right? As an adjective means again or secondly. And I've actually given you the note here, right? The he suffix for Galil is directional to the Galil. So just if you forgot that. And so we can read it now. Vayetze me'eretz Yehuda vayelek shenit ha-Galilah. Translation, and he went out from the land of Yehuda, and he went secondly to the Galil. And so we now come to verse 4, which is represented with a dalet, the fourth letter of the alphabet. And we go through letters. Vav yod he yod, lamed ayin veit resh, dalet resh kaf sofit, aleph resh Zade Sofit, Shin Mem Resh Vav Nun Sofit. Remembering that this is actually the vowel mark, and that is the dot for the shin rather than sin, just so you don't get confused there, because the dots are on both ends of it. But this dot could be better served as moved over a little bit. So let's read it. Vehi, and he was. Now, the reason I put he instead of it was because it's talking about him. And he was la'avor, to pass, or because for to passing, but we just say to pass. Derek, meaning the way, and I've added of. Eretz, meaning the land, and I've added of again. And it's Shomron, meaning Samaria. And we look down here, we've got avar. It's a cold verb to pass, to cross, to go over, to surpass. So you can even put there, and he was to surpass the way of the land of Samaria. So you could also say it that way. And so now we can read it. Vehi la'avor derek eretz shomron. And he was to pass the way of the land of Samaria. So in English, he had to pass through the land of Samaria. That's how they translate it. And now we come to verse 5, which is a hey, of course, the fifth letter of the alphabet. And then we have Vav, Yod, Veit, Aleph, Lamed, Ayin, Yod, Resh, Mem, Ayin, Resh, Yod, Shin, Mem, Resh, Vav, Nun Sofit, Vav, Shin, Mem, He, Samek, Vav, Kaf, and Resh. So let's read it. Va, Ya, Vo. And he came. It's a completed action because of the Vav here. If the Vav had a Shiva under it, then it wouldn't change the tense, but it does here. And he came. It's a completed action. Le'ir, it means to a city. If we look down here, Ir is a feminine noun. It means city, metropolis, or town, right? So it could be like a town. Me'are, which is from the cities of. It's got the same root as the previous, but it's spelled slightly different. And it's got a zere with a yod there, which means of, because it's a construct form connected to the next word. So from the cities of Shomron, which we know is Samaria, Ushma, And literally the hay can be a feminine, and of course cities are feminine, so you could say and her name. But generally it'll be translated and its name. And then it is Sukar. Right, that's the name. Well, it looks like it comes from a similar meaning, a place of dwellings, I guess, temporary dwellings, but its name in Hebrew is Sukkah, and we know that the term here comes from Shem, which means name, reputation. The hay suffix is feminine, and it means her or its. So I've given you that as well. And interesting is that the same basic root for city is ear, and it's a PL verb to urbanize. And it means, I guess, to make it into a town. So that's the verb form of it. So the English is, so he entered the city of Samaria, which is called Sychar. That's how they translate it in the English. So let's read it. Vayavo le'ir me'are shomron ushma sukar. And he came to a city from the cities of Samaria, and her name, Sukkah. Of course, rather than city, it could be town, I guess. And then we have verse 5b, so we're in Mem, Vav, Lamed, Chet, Lamed, Kuf, Tav, Hey, Sin this time, dot on that side, Dalet, Hey, Aleph, Shin, Resh, Nun, Tav, Nun, Safit, Yod, Ayin, Kuf, Veyet. Mi, Mul, from opposite. So if we look at mul as a prep, it means opposite, facing, against, versus. So you could say from facing or from opposite. Chelkat, the portion of. Now, because of the tav on the end, we could say it's a construct form. So the portion of ha-sadeh, meaning the field, asher, that, Natan, he gave. And then we've got Yaakov, meaning Jacob, that he gave Jacob. And its name, Sychar, across from the parcel of the field that Jacob had given. And I've given you chelak. As a masculine noun, it means part, portion, segment, or section. So note, the portion of the field is referred to in Bereshit, Genesis 48:22. I just thought to throw that in for you. So let's read it. Mi mul chelkat ha-sadeh asher natan Yaakov. From opposite the portion of the field that he gave Jacob. That means Jacob gave, right? Not he gave Jacob, because that's English. Hebrew tells us afterwards who. So we've got to learn to understand Hebrew that way. And now we come to 5c, and we have a lamed, yod, vav, samek, fesofit, fe at the end of a word. Then we have bet, nun, vav. Right, and then we have le Yosef, to Joseph, right? Beno, his son. Again, the O at the end, we don't say the vav, we just say the vowel mark. Beno, which is his son. So the O tells us his. The field that Jacob had given to Joseph, his son. And then we read it. Let Joseph, Beno, to Joseph, his son. And now that brings us to the revision part of our lesson. And we begin, of course, with 1, and we see that it's represented with an aleph, and then we have vehi, and it was. Kasher, like, and it could be that, or like when, noda, meaning it was known, la adon, to the master, ki, that, shamu, they heard. Now it's like third person. And it was like when it was known to the master that they heard. Ha perushim, the Pharisees, assure that Yeshua mid had raised up or caused to raise up, vegam, and also hit bill, he immersed. The Pharisees that Yeshua raised up and also he immersed, tell me dim, disciples, harbe, which could be more, because rabbe means great or more, mi Yehuchanan, from Yehuchanan, or than Yehuchanan. Disciples more from Yehuchanan, or Yochanan. And then we come to verse 2, which is Veit. Ve'ulam, and nevertheless, it's a conjunction. Yahushua, who he, lo not, hit bil, immersed, ki im, but. And nevertheless, Yahushua, he not immersed, but tal me dayev, his disciples. Then we have Gimel, which is Vayet say, and he went out, or departed, Me'eretz, from the land of Yehuda, Vayelek, and he went Shanit, secondly, or a second time, Ha Galilah, to the Galil, to the Galilee. And he went out from the land of Yehuda, and he went secondly to the Galil. Right, now we come to 4, represented with the Dalet. He. And it was, or and he was. La'avor, to pass. Derek, the way. And we could say of. Eretz, the land of Shomron, the land of Shomron, which is Samaria. And he was to pass the way of the land of Shomron, which is Samaria. Then we have a Hey, which is 5, so we're in verse 5. Vayavo, and he came. Le'ir, to a city. Me'are, from the cities of, to construct form. Shomron, Samaria. Ushma, and her name. In English, we'd say, and its name. Sukar or Sychar, right? And he came to a city from the cities of Samaria, and her name, and its name, Sukar. Me mul, from opposite, Chel cut, the portion of, because with the tav it's also construct, ha Sardeh of the field, Asher that Natan he gave Yaakov Jacob. From opposite the portion of the field that he gave Jacob, Le Yosef, to Yosef, Beno, his son. To Yosef, his son. And so we now come to our vowels, just so that we understand them well. Kamatz, it's a longer A. You can tell by the name, Kamatz. And then we have Patak. Well, that sounds like a shorter A, so we know we've got a shorter sounding A. Then we have Zere, a longer E, Ze. And then we have Se, it's a shorter E, Sego. Then Shiva, and that breaks up the word into the syllables. Then we have Cholam, so that's a O sound. Mostly the Vav is not said, just the vowel, but sometimes it is in some cases. And then, of course, we have a combination here with the Shiva, right? So therefore, it's called a Ketaf, Kamatz. Then here we've also got a combination, Shiva and Patak. So it's Ketaf, Patak. And we have Chirik, that gives you the I sound. Then we have Ketaf, Segol. And we have Kubutz, which sounds like a little bit longer U sound. Then we have Shuruk, again a shorter sound. So we're just learning that certain sounds can be short or long, that's all. That's what we have to gather from that. So now we, of course, again have the resources, and I do truly encourage you to use them. They are so helpful. And so let's pick this line now. We have a Lamed, which is 30, Kaf, which is 20, Yod 10, Tet 9, Chet 8, Zion 7. So this chart is so helpful in trying to remember the values of the letters. Hopefully, eventually, you can just look at a Tav and say, oh yeah, I know it's 400, or a Ayin, yeah, 70. As you just keep going through them and looking at them and the numbering systems, it will help you work out what verses you're in. And so, as we come to the end of this lesson, I just want to wish you Shavua Tov, a great week, in the name of Yeshua, our Messiah and our King. Amen.